Heinrich Montag. The Infernus Master nonchalantly lights a low stick from a thermal cutter and spreads his arms in a welcoming gesture. Heinrich Montag, at your service. He smells of cinders and low. His face is sooty and his belt is laden with a number of heavy tools. You would have taken him for a laborer if it weren't for the greasy and ragged officer's uniform. Low, I think, is cigarettes. A common form of recreational stimulant that consists of rolled paper stuffed with plant-derived substance. When lit, this substance emits smoke that is inhaled through the tube. Yeah, cigarettes. He narrows his eyes, studying your face, then says with visible relief, "It's only tales after all. You just don't look like a bringer of woes to me." What was that about bringer of woes? Do I even need to say it? The moment you came aboard, Lady Theodora perished. So did her arch-militant, as well as half the senior officers and a quarter of the Infernus Guild, along with the previous Infernus Master. What's worse, rations don't taste as good anymore, fire burns hotter, and that sinister look in your eyes, like you're about to put a curse on someone. Heinrich grins. It's what the Voidsmen say, so it must be true. You survived a brush with the warp phenomenon sometime in your distant past. Okay. That was part of our character creation. That apparently gives us a sinister look in our eyes. What if I were to put a curse on you this very instant? It seems that several of the ship's bays are due for depressurization as a disciplinary measure. Or ludicrous nonsense. Don't let it get to you. They'll get bored of it soon enough. How did you come to be in service of the Von Valentius dynasty? Not in the usual way. My ancestors wronged yours and were appointed Inferni as a result. Hard labor, deadly risk, plenty of opportunities to atone. Those criminals have been dead for generations, but we are still serving their time. May we find redemption one day. Wow. So just some ancient ancestor of his did something against the Von Valentius, and now they're just permanently stuck as laborers. Okay. Tell me more about the Infernus Guild. What interests you the most? Our duty, our state-of-the-art equipment, or our vibrant traditions? How's the guild organized? The Infernus service is split into different brigades according to duties. The heart of the guild are, of course, our liquidators, tough guys with nerves of steel who put out fires and pull people from the flames. Others are repairmen dealing with problems like jammed doors, fuel leaks, and broken vents. And then there's the walking inspectors who check the decks to make sure that nothing is blocking any passages or access to communication lines. State-of-the-art equipment, that sounds interesting. The Infernus Master smiles guiltily. That was a bit of a stretch. I'm sorry, there is no state-of-the-art equipment. The risks of ruining it in a fire are too great. We get by using human resources and the most common items available. Respirators, fire extinguishers, and flame-retardant uniforms. Let's face it, the lives of the Inferni are not worth much. It's more important that we save the machines and minimize damage to the ship. What are your traditions? We have plenty of those, like the reminders. Heinrich rolls up his sleeve, revealing a tattoo inscribed over an old burn mark. When you survive a particularly hopeless accident, you get a tattoo on your scar. You can always tell an experienced Infernus by their ink. It's like a badge of honor of sorts. Tell me about how you got your reminders. He points to a tattoo on his right forearm. This one is from the time plasma leaked from the outer aft circuit. Imagine yourself clinging to the hole outside, thermal cutter in one hand and a magnetic clamp in the other, as your flames burst from the breach, the kind that can incinerate you in a second. All that separates you from death is a flimsy rope and a void suit, more ancient than Holy Terra. And yet, the price I paid was nothing compared to my comrades. He slowly removes the augmented fingers from his right hand. Cool. As for this one, the look he directs at his left hand is full of bitterness. I got this one in the ammo depot, where my wife Elsinora died. There was a fire and the flames were getting close to the ammunition, and I don't mean autogun rounds. Those are macro cannon shells. Type of voidship weapon generally mounted on the sides of the dorsal section. When fired, macro cannons launch several salvos against the same target. So, yeah, these are ship-to-ship weaponry. So much bigger. We put out the fire as best we could, but we were losing. Suddenly, Elsie took my hand, kissed me, and then ran straight into the blaze and activated the emergency blast door. We stayed outside while she vented the compartment. Heinrich takes a tender smile, gazing at the smoke. It was quite a story. Well, I'm sorry for your loss, Heinrich. He nods gratefully and takes another puff. I've learned all I need. What shall we talk about? That is enough for now, Heinrich. Never let your fire go out, Lord Captain. I mean, no. Heinrich hurriedly waves his hand. That's just a stupid little Gildan joke. Seriously, if you see an infernus next to a naked flame, run. Anyone else of note down here? Doesn't look like it. Was there anyone on this side? I didn't actually look that way. So we'll just quickly run over here. Yes, actually. Letard Forius. I don't think we've heard of you yet. Letard Forius, a man of indeterminate age, bows his head. His robes are spotless, and his rigid collar constricts his throat. The unsettling smell of medicine hangs in the air. The man's pale eyes look bleached. Greetings, your lordship. Your chirurgeon majoris at your service. Chirurgeons are doctors, surgeons, etc. Forius examines your face and hands critically, then gives a satisfied nod. No scars. The consequences of your charge through fire have been successfully remedied. Very good. I'll make a note of it in the journal. Were you the one who treated my burns? Forius raises his chin haughtily. Treating the Lord Captain is a job for the best Medicaid practitioner on board, which is me. Tell me about your responsibilities. My job is to save lives, heal wounded officers, develop vaccines for onboard epidemics, discover new methods of healing. However, I spend most watches listening to patients about their many qualms, managing the junior Medicaid officers, and dividing the afflicted into those who matter and those who do not. A rather irritating addition to my duties as chirurgeon majoris. Not the most compassionate of healers, are you? What sort of new methods? Or I see. Not the most compassionate of healers, are you? Compassion has nothing to do with the healer's trade. I prefer conversing with diseases rather than their carriers. Patients are aggravating. What sort of new methods? There are many. I'm ever in search of solutions to dangerous afflictions. My latest work involved studying a particularly lethal disease that devours the person's flesh and skin. It has already claimed 12 lives, but their deaths were not in vain. I've learned much about the enemy, and the vaccine will soon be ready for testing. I see. I hope I've satisfied your curiosity. How did you come to serve on my flagship? I was the master healer on a world that belonged to the Chorda dynasty. I had managed to cure someone who was considered doomed, not because of their illness, but because of certain self-important priest had tried to cure them with a prayer and failed. After I put him to shame, he started spreading rumors that I owed my skill to the influence of the ruinous powers. I sought refuge under Lady Theodora, who expressed an appreciation for my talents and welcomed me and my family on her ship. Ruinous powers are the Chaos Gods. Chaos, a malignant metaphysical force composed of psychic energy. Yeah. You're not actually a heretic, are you? You serve the Emperor faithfully? His colorless eyes flash indignantly. My expertise is the result of hard work and accumulated wisdom, not some paltry sorcery. I employ my craft to save his children. That should serve as a better proof of my innocence than any show of piety. Are the customs of the Quarter Worlds truly so uncompromising and blind to reason? You teach a man to read, you raise a bright heretic, I believe was one of the favorite local sayings. As for demonstrating the superiority of knowledge over the advice of holy ecclesiarchs, well, that kind of defiance was sure to put my life at risk. Naturally, House Corda still has need of people like me, educated and capable of intellectual thought. However, anyone who is permitted to learn does so under strict supervision. I have heard Lady Incendia's ship has a dedicated compartment for sages and keepers of knowledge that more resembles a prison than a librarium. Faith can work miracles and cure those who are beyond treatment. This cannot be denied. That's true. Again, for 40k, there is definitely faith workers that miracles work by faith rather than necessarily by logic and skill. He grimaces wearily, and neither can one deny the fact that miracles are rare. The belief that prayer can relieve a person of illness enables false hopes. Those who prefer healing themselves with reverent words still end up on my table, so that I can perform an autopsy rather than a procedure. Fair. In 40k, I would definitely choose to both have a trained surgeon work on me, a trained chirurgeon, as well as have a priest pray over me. It was rather careless of you to get involved in that case. In what case? Oh, the case he's talking about where he was claimed to be a heretic. I don't think I would reprimand him. I'm going to ask, but I don't think this is going to go positively. But we'll ask it, or I guess say it. It was rather careless of you to get involved in that case. I would not have become a chirurgeon if I was afraid of death. It is an unavoidable side effect of my profession. Yeah, he seems like a good guy. He's not necessarily the most faith-driven, but that's fine. He's very much a logical man of science. There's something else I wish to discuss. He nods, brushing away invisible specks from his white gloves. How is the crew's health? Are you interested in a general report on the ship as a whole, or in hearing about how your immediate subordinates are faring? Both. We'll start with the general report. I'm currently not aware of any epidemics or other large-scale threats to the lives of the crew, or anything more serious than normal at least. Minor outbreaks are part of the natural decline process. The Medicae are occupied with treating both industrial and combat injuries, as well as dealing with sporadically occurring ailments. And the senior officers, what kinds of complaints do they have? The Master Helmsman's headaches caused by his faulty implants, the High Factorum's occasional indigestion, the Master-at-Arms' combat wounds that can hardly be considered life-threatening. Forius folds a finger dismissively for every officer he mentions. Vapid cases that I'm obligated to manage as Chirurgeon Majoris. At least the Infernus Master does not waste my time and simply comes to pick up ointments for his burns. Now to other matters. What would you like to discuss? That will be all. Alright, let's see who else we have around here to talk to. So that's the map that allows us to direct the ship. We can go to our quarters over there. Yeah, the idea that the way a tech priest gets the computers to do what they're supposed to is surrounding them in candles, saying a prayer, and swinging incense. As a computer engineer myself, that is not how I do my programming. Jocasta Sauerbach. Jocasta Sauerbach is the very picture of discipline. Her uniform is exquisitely pressed, her armor is polished, and her posture is imposing and rigid. The only flaw in her immaculate appearance is the heavy enforcer's maul, which is worn and battered from frequent use. She salutes you with a practiced motion. Greetings, Lord Captain. How did you come to serve on my flagship? I come from the noble Sauerbach family. I don't think IT at work would approve either. Yeah. My job would not be happy if I set up a bunch of candles and started swinging around incense and saying holy prayers to the computers. I come from the noble Sauerbach family of the capital world of Dargonus. I dare say that our house is renowned for its loyalty and strict adherence to the law, and the members of my family have been your faithful enforcers for centuries. I'm honored to be the 6th Master-at-Arms named Sauerbach to serve on this ship. Jocasta speaks the words with unmistakable pride. Why are you here instead of basking in luxury on Dargonus? Because of my cousin, Macarius? A furious crease appears between her brows. I cannot stand him, but the feeling is mutual. We can hardly be in the same room together, so I jumped at the opportunity to become your enforcer. I should thank my obnoxious cousin for nudging me towards the best decision of my life. I serve you with all of my heart, and wish for no other fate than this one. You were wearing Imperial Navy armor. How did you come by it? Hey, Coruscant. Welcome. I've been enjoying the game so far. I inherited it from the previous Master-at-Arms. Like the esteemed Seneschal, he left the Navy to serve Lady Theodora. He brought quite a few officers with him and established a tradition. Upon the death or resignation of an enforcer, his or her armor will be passed on to a fellow officer who had distinguished themselves in the course of their duties. I was awarded armor in this way in my time, and upon the death of my predecessor, I inherited his personal armor. What is your opinion of me as Lord Captain? I would not dare to form opinions about your lordship. That would be unforgivably brazen of me. My duty is to serve, not to evaluate. I mean, I'd still like to know your evaluation. If I'm doing something wrong, it'd be nice to know. I want to know what you think about the other officers. I do not trust them, but I do not trust anyone. Mistress Tolaman has too much power and will surely be tempted to start deciding for herself what information to share with the crew on your behalf and what to withhold. Ravor is closely intertwined with the ship's systems, which opens up plenty of opportunities for sabotage. He must be watched. As for Danrock, forgive me, but a man of his size and habits cannot help but steal. What can you tell me about Abelard? The Seneschal is a model of competence and fidelity, and all the officers and enforcers look up to him with gratitude. A grimace of fierce devotion takes hold of Sourback's face before she abruptly grits her teeth and continues. It is all the more distressing to see that the years have not been kind to the deeply respected Master Wersarian. Soon there will be no rejuvenant treatment that can save him from the mistakes inherent in such advanced age. But we are ever watchful and will there to steady the trembling hand of the honored veteran if need be. So she thinks very highly of our Seneschal, but recognizes that age is catching up with him and it will start having him make mistakes. I want to know more about your service. I am ready to answer any questions, Lord Captain. What are the Master-at-Arms' duties? I am responsible for upholding safety and order aboard the ship, guard duties, patrols, finding and punishing troublemakers. In addition, my enforcers ensure that the crew follow all directives and carry out their tasks properly. As they say in my family, a servant who shows disobedience today prepares a riot tomorrow, which is why the officer who was besmirching our name at our somewhat unofficial coronation was executed, because they were disobedient today and so likely preparing a riot for tomorrow. There are thousands of people aboard this vessel. How do you maintain order? 2 words, Lord Captain: suppression and fear. The base nature of the rabble cries for an iron grip, lest they give in to their animal urges. We have many well-tested measures to prevent it: random night searches, preventative interrogations, corporal punishment, and executions. Of course, the laws of the ship equally apply to the officers. We eradicate the canker of insubordination wherever we find it, without mercy. I hope you will not repeat the mistakes of the previous Master-at-Arms. What previous mistakes do we know of, besides that he was unsuccessful in saving Lady Theodora, because they both died together? You can be sure of that. He was a fine enforcer, but suffered from the fatal flaw of trusting his associates. I myself lack that weakness, and trust no one except you, Lord Captain. Alright. We don't know who... We still haven't figured out who killed Lady Theodora and Mort, but given that they caught the Master-at-Arms off guard, we assume it was someone he trusted, and therefore that ended up being his fatal flaw. Yes, Lord Captain, that's all for now. Proud to serve the dynasty. High Factorum Janus Danrock. The corpulent man in lavish clothes bows before you, not without difficulty. A servo skull whirs over his shoulder while the fingers of his augmented hand drum against a sheaf of papers he is holding, and he regards you with attentive interest through the lens of his magnifying implant. Greetings, your lordship. Janus Danrock at your service. How did you come to serve the Von Valentius dynasty? I come from Dargonus, your lordship. I have been a subject of your dynasty since birth, and have always strived to be of use to the great rogue trader. Alas, it was not my fate to be the primary heir of my own family, due to being 15th in line for the title, so I decided not to stand in the way of those behind me in case they attempted to shorten the waiting list at my expense. Janus lets out an almost kindly chuckle. While my brothers and sisters schemed against one another, I studied the exact sciences and mastered bookkeeping, the great art of the adeptus administratum. I must admit that the accumulation of wealth, something one can control, is far more exciting than hunting, carousing, and other traditional amusements of my noble peers. Was it like working with Theodora? Oh, now that's a tricky question, your lordship. Do you ask it of everyone, knowing they risk losing their head should they let slip a careless remark about your predecessor? I shall put it thus. Working with Lady Theodora was never boring and always profitable. The Imperium has billions of subjects, but very few do what they love and what they are best suited to. I would say Lady Theodora was one of the fortunate ones. She was a model rogue trader, and she surrounded herself with those who excelled at and loved their work. Hers was a rare talent indeed. I wish to know what you think of your fellow crew members. Keeping tabs on your subordinates, a wise move. Tell me who interests you. I'll endeavor to be as honest as possible. Janus' eyes light up. He is obviously eager to speak his mind. Tell me what you think of the Seneschal. Abelard Worserian. Lady Theodore managed to do what even the Imperial Navy could not, teach Master Worserian to carry out orders that he fundamentally disagrees with. I do not know what method she used, but the result is impressive. Having said that, there is something else you need to know. Lord Captain, your seneschal is capable of being something far greater than a mere conduit of your will. He possesses the cunning and experience to run the protectorate passably whenever Lady Theodora was away, and that really is saying something. Keep an eye on that old officer, I say, or alternatively, turn him into a faithful ally. I'd like to hear your opinions. I'm vaguely familiar with Warhammer 40k lore. I've read several of the books, and played Dark Heresy 2nd Edition with my tabletop role-playing group, so that involved getting into the lore to some extent, but I will not claim to be an expert on 40k lore, but I'm not going into it blind either. So I'm decently familiar. I'd like to hear your opinion of Kunrad Votvier, the former Master of Whispers. I hope I never see him set foot aboard this vessel again, not even as a servitor. Although he would be able to do at least some good that way. Someone has to clean the latrines after all. The Factor's bloated face grows stern. He gave us all quite a fright on that ill-fated day, Lord Captain, and still, to speak candidly, I never enjoyed Master Votvier's company. But I believed him to be a man who knew how to do his job. Regretfully, I was mistaken. It turned out Kunrad lacked the most important quality for a Master of Whispers, unwavering loyalty to the rogue trader, and his failing came to light in the most deplorable manner. It's great. I think this game is good for newcomers to the lore, but you'll likely get much more out of it then. That's my hope. Warhammer 40k lore is fantastic. Like, the deeper you go, the better and more interesting the lore gets. And so I'm hoping this will help me dive even deeper into the lore than I already am, to see all the intricacies of how everything fits together, and the less known edges of Warhammer 40k lore and how interesting those become. Like, the more you dive into any individual aspect of the Warhammer 40k lore, the more interesting it becomes. What do you have to say about Voxmaster Vigdis Tolamen? Ah yes, the Voidborn. You know, in my family, we used such creatures as quarry whenever we went hunting. Mutants are the bane of humanity, an unseen tumor that threatens to end us all. But I digress. In the brief time Tolamen has spent in post as Voxmaster, I've not noticed any significant flaw in her character, or anything that would make me question her professional qualities. Needless to say, she is very diligent, as is any Voidborn seeking to earn their master's affection. I believe you can trust in her skills and loyalty. Your family hunted Voidborns. And I don't think Voidborns necessarily count as mutants. I mean, maybe their slight different skin colors, etc. could be counted as a mutation, but I wouldn't necessarily call them mutants. And the idea of hunting them just for fun is brutal. I wish to discuss something else. As you say, your lordship, I want to know more about the people who buy our plunder. Of course, Lord Captain. Who interests you exactly? We most often deal with the following: with the followers of St. Drusus, the Explorators, the Casbalica Mission, or Emperor Forgive Us, the Fellowship of the Void. Very grimdark, yes. Warhammer 40k is super grimdark, and it's fantastic. What did the followers of St. Drusus acquire from us? The Drusians still hope to bring the Koronus Expanse into the warm embrace of the faith, just as their flock hopes to receive the aid of the Drusian missionaries. Each crate of food, shipment of clothes, or box of medicine marked with your seal is a sign the rogue trader himself believes in the sect's future success. Reverend Hieronymus is the first among the Drusians and is most often seen in Footfall's Grand Atrium. A gloomy fellow, but some almost believe him to be a saint. Tell me more about the Explorators. Members of the Explorator Cognizance fleet, which has been roaming the Koronus Expanse for a good while now. Omnissiah knows what they are hoping to find, but their acolytes regularly show up on inhabited worlds, seeking bits of sacred knowledge, tracking down mechanical relics, and sniffing out xeno artifacts, if truth be told. Supposedly, they want to save the ignorant rabble from corruption. A tech priest named Opticon 22 does business with us on the fleet's behalf. He can be found at the docks on Footfall. So it sounds like Footfall is going to be sort of a major port for us for a significant portion of the game, at least. A lot of things are pointing us there. And it's interesting, so someone referred to the explorators that they were looking for heretical machines and technology, but it sounds like he's saying a lot of what they're looking for is sacred knowledge, old relics, but they also are looking out for xeno artifacts, which would be heretical. So, it doesn't sound like it's all heretical that they're interested in. I'm interested in the Casabalica mission. Masters of the Cold Trade, immoral criminals, and notorious crooks to the last man. The mission is but one branch of the Mafia's gang that has taken root in the Calixtus sector. You can do business with them as long as you take the necessary precautions. They're led by Vladim Tokara, who recently appointed himself Liege of Footfall. Of course, he is a trusted ally of rogue trader Winterscale, but he will not refuse you, another of the Emperor's anointed. If you wish to talk to Vladim, look for him in the Liege's palace on Footfall. What is this Fellowship of the Void? Janus emits a laugh like a gurgle. A laugh like gurgle. A pompous name, is it not? In truth, they are a gang of pirates who are forever squabbling over loot and territory. However, some of their little flotillas need supplies or can take awkward cargo off of our hands without asking questions. Of course, there's always a risk that these scoundrels will change their mind and attempt to board us instead, but so far, our macro cannons have managed to keep them in line. They say Ryza Calvaria speaks on the Fellowship's behalf. The Adeptus Amassecus on Footfall is rumored to be her favorite haunt. Adeptus Amassecus. So Adeptus is usually like a imperial order, like the Adeptus Sororitas, or, you know, it's saying that it's a official group. But Adeptus Amassecus, I'm assuming Amassecus is referring to Amsec, which is alcohol. So this sounds like their favorite haunt is a bar that they're treating as a, like, revered organization of the Imperium by name, which is kind of amusing, if I'm translating that name correctly. Why are we giving away our spoils to these people in the first place? We're not giving them away, we're selling them, I presume. To profit from them, of course. Most of the things you'll find during expeditions are complete junk to one such as yourself, but the less fortunate and affluent servants of the Emperor think them treasures, especially when they are bestowed by the great rogue trader himself. Jersian fanatics and pirate cutthroats, Casabalica dealers and explorators, none will refuse our help in these dark and trying times, and there may come time when we shall be the ones requiring aid, and it would be beneficial to have allies willing to provide it. I suggest we change the subject. Certainly, Lord Captain. I wish to bolster my retinue with skilled fighters, so that's, I presume, he's the guy that we can talk to recruit followers that don't have lore and backgrounds and whatnot like our main followers, but if we want to carefully craft a specific new fighter for our retinue, we can talk to him there. My retinue and I are in need of training. That is probably how we redo our character retraining. That's what they call it. So having played a bit of the Pathfinder games, also done by Owlcat, they each had a character that did both these, recruiting new people and then retraining. So enough questions for now. I shall return later. I shall await your instructions, Lord Captain. Let's see. None of you have names. Bridge Technomat. More random people. Servitor. To another compartment. Just some other place. I don't know. We don't know where that door goes on the ship. Just somewhere else.